The next type of file type we're going to work with are font files, which will allow us to modify the visual appearance of text elements. We have an infinite number of pages from where we can download fonts, and therefore there are literally thousands of fonts that we can download to use them as part of our applications. There are also some sites, such as this Android site called Material Studies, which show us different use cases in which different applications has been created, and as part of each of these cases there are different sections, and a very interesting section is the section called typography, as it shows us the different fonts that were used to create an application and how they were applied to a particular project. So let's learn how to include typographies as part of our applications. I'm back in Visual Studio, and we have a folder inside the resources folder called fonts, in which we're going to be able to drag and drop different fonts to use them as part of an application. I've previously downloaded a font, and that's the one that I'm going to drag and drop next. It is this one called creamer.ttf. How can we use it once we've imported it? Well, I'm going to proceed to remove this grid element, and instead I'm going to indicate that I want a stack layout. I will proceed to define some controls, such as a label control. Let's set the size property to 50 so that the text is quite visible. Let's also specify a text, such as this is a font text, and let's set the text color to white so that it contrasts with the background. Let's also modify the background color of the stack layout, assigning a black color. I'm going to proceed to copy and paste this label control, and it is because I want you to see the difference between a default text and a text with the font that we have imported. Once we have our pair of label controls, how can we apply this font to one of them? Well, we have to use a property called font family, and here we're going to specify the full name of the font, which in this case is creamer.ttf. If you wanted to use any of these fonts that we have as part of the folder, you will have to use the full name of the font, as for example, we could copy this entire name and replace the font family. Let's return the value to creamer.ttf, and let's start the application to see what this font that we've imported looks like. Once the application has been deployed, we can see how this first label control already has this font that we have imported applied, while the second label control contains the default font. We can apply some additional features to this element, such as its font attributes equal to bold. We can also use the italic attributes, and this way the formatting of this font is modified once again. Now, it can be tedious and not so optimal having to type the full name of the family file we are importing. Fortunately, in .NET Maui there is a way for us to register the font family and assign an alias, so that we use the alias instead of the full font name. How can we do this? Well, we have to go to the file called mauiprogram.cs, and we have a section called configure fonts that is already created in the project. What we can do is simply copy one of these lines. I'm going to proceed, copy it and paste it. And as part of this method, which is called add font, we have to carry out the registration of the font that we are using. Look how at the top each of these fonts has already been previously registered. So let's do the same thing with the font called creamer.ttf. I will indicate that I want to register the font creamer.ttf, and we can place an alias for this font. For example, I can give it my font or any other name. I'm going to copy this alias, I'm going to return to the label control, and I am going to indicate that instead of using the name of the font, I want to use the alias my font. With this change applied, let's start the execution once again. We can see the same result, with the big difference that this time we are using the alias instead of using the full name of the font. This is how we can add and work with fonts in .NET Maui based applications.